We had a one-man show in Palm Springs. I sold this rendering. And when you have one-man show, you tend to do a piece of art for that show. You know, the artist is being honored with this one-man show. So this was, again, a photograph of the mountains just to the west. This is taken from inside the portico of the Palm Springs Conference Center. So these stone pillars architecturally are right on. And it's in the future, and it's an afternoon gala, costume gala. These are anti-gravity craft arriving. You can see the people inside. This is my friend 61 Lincoln Continental because I just like the car. These people are being parked. And this panel, we're already starting to do that. These are electroluminescent RGB panels that can be programmed, and you'll see more and more of this as the car world becomes more. If you think, you know, spinner hubcaps are outrageous, wait. But I was trying to recapture the entire history of transport from the horse-drawn carriage to the future. So these are the anti-gravity units here. And it does the same exact thing. Big wheels at each end, cab in the middle, it's self-driven. It's, in fact, a coach. Another illustration done for a one-man show in Tokyo called Silver Coach. It's silver. This big ball is the total motive power, steering, suspension, everything. In the background, you see this young man here letting his lady out of the coach. These are announcement masks and communication aerials. And the scenario, I don't have any idea what this is up here. It looks like it's Habitat City hanging on the other side of this rock. I don't know. This goes back in the distance. The reflections, this shiny, it has a sense of place, but the sense of place is total invention, but yet it settles it down into its own story format, and you tend to believe it. These are robot valets. They don't need a dental plan. Now, the interesting thing about vehicle design, sometimes it's violated. My friend Harold did the car for, Minority Report. Was that when they had the Lexus? Going the wrong way. And, you know, but vehicles generally, you sort of feel this goes this way. That's the back end. And there's no wheels, there's no windows, there's no idea of scale, but you still have a feeling that it's got a sense of direction and a horizontal alignment. I don't like a lot of cars today because they are all jacked up in the rear. They look like they're in a perpetual panic stop from the time they leave the factory. And the idea is not a new one. It started years and years and years ago in the California roadster market with the big wheels in the back, small wheels in the front. It was called a California rig. Now, this goes way back. I was at Ford Motor Company for 26 months until I got my very fortunate elevator out of the Ford factory environment. But I did these renderings. Now, when I graduated from Art Center in 1959, I've been out of school 50 years, Jesus. But you were paid $4,000 a year. That was the standard salary, and it was also the cost of a brand new Cadillac. So you can figure the Cadillac guys now programmers go to work at $85,000, $90,000 a year. So this was one of the renderings I did for the vendors lobby. And it's an anti-gravity vehicle, this nice glass bubble. It's pure fantasy. It's not even terribly mechanical, it's more of a sculpture. Here's some standing on end, but the salesman trying to sell one to those people. Test model being run up here. These people in these outrageous cloaks. That's so I didn't have to render feet, for one thing. Well, I'm just telling you. And she's got her pet with her, this gas-filled, sort of reminds me. Maybe that was an executive, I don't know. But it's a whole thing. The graphics down here, the beta coupe. So this is done probably about 1960 when I first worked for Ford. One of my favorite stories of George Walker, who was head of design for Ford, and I was there. In school, there was a series of papers called Canson papers, beautiful papers, so a texture to them. And my favorite color was this mulberry colored paper. It's really very pretty. You can take Prismacolor and do sky tone and put highlights with white temper, and it really makes a nice looking sketch. So I'm working away on a Galaxy or some big Ford sedan sketch in the advanced studio. And Gail Haldeman, who was second in command of the studio, was over, and he said, you know, he says, George doesn't like that colored paper. And I was young, and I said, well, George could afford a psychiatrist and tell him why. So even if you go to this extent, we don't know whether it's backwards, forwards, front. It's a thing here. The people give it scale. It's shiny. It has graphics. It looks kind of weird. And it could be some future development that is, in fact, a transport device. So let's go to pure story. Now, here's the story. This is very small. This is only about 7 inches or so from side to side. It was also going to be in the U.S. Steel book, but they said there's no wheels, so we don't want it in the book. I thought, for Christ's sakes, people, these designers do cars all day long. They like this sort of thing. How am I doing on time? So here's the story. The rocket ship is crashed. They've salvaged one of these anti-grav coils from the ship. Fortunately, the chief engineer survived. And Penelope here is out in the sun. She doesn't know that this planet has very bad radiation. She's not really burned. And this planet has no aloe bushes, so she's really hurting. But the detail here, you can see it's been ripped out of something, and it doesn't really belong where it is. They've rigged up a canopy for shade, and it's floating across this chasm to maybe a habitat or something over here on the other side of the cliff. So it's a whole complete story in one little tiny rendering, and you could look at this and sort of make up all kinds of rationales for this particular scene. I had a fellow working with me. This is a 72 frame rotation we did for a game for some people in Tokyo, terraforming. And so I designed these vehicles. The scheme of the game was that 6 planets would send their cars to this one sort of vacant planet, and they'd race, and the winner of the race won the war. Instead of killing people, they just put in machines in the ground. So this was the Sand People's car. They were the bad people. So it's a 72 frame rotation. I did all the sections, classic surface development drafting, and then Nick skinned it and made the 72 frame rotation. So that was the bad guys. Now you always have to have the white haired, the white hat guys, the good guys, like classic melodrama. This was the hero's car. So the ultimate, futuristic Corvette. Now this is a very famous vehicle. And there it is, lying over the street, keeping the city in control. When Ridley first saw this, he didn't understand the projection of these wheels. Well, in my mind, this is a helicopter, in effect. It flies and takes off. And the driver has to see where he's going, so he can look down between the wheel projections, and it had glass panels on the floor. And I designed it originally with a twin-handle sort of grip for the steering. Well, Jane Winfield built all this, brilliant metal bender guy out, and now he's in Mojave, the studio. And so he built these based on a Volkswagen chassis, sort of chopped up because it had a motor. You can drive it to the shop. So I had these 2 handles, handle grips to steer it. Well, the stunt driver couldn't steer it, and he ran into a wall, so they just put a normal steering wheel connected to the front wheels. Like some stunt driver. And the ultimate travel in fiction, certainly science fiction, is time travel. This was also done way back in the 60s. These capsules, they're inviting this young lady into their capsule. What they're waiting for is the right field alert up here, and they'll press the button, and the field generator will lock them into the stream, and off they go. Right now, except for Rome, I think. These are pedestrians. They can't afford one of these, so they're waiting on foot. And they'll end up in some time frame, and they're dressed. You can see right here, they're dressed to be where they're going to be Paris with the fake, animatronic poodle, and so forth. So it's pure fantasy. This is really fantasy, but elaborately done. And you're drawn into the picture and think that it could really happen someday.